What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York. We are back at the basement at St. Vitus, and today we are here with Steve of 200 Stab Wounds. It is so great to be able to talk with you, man. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, anytime, man. Congrats on all the success you've been having with signing to Metal Blade Records and this kick-ass new song, Masters of Morbidity. Is this maybe a good representation of what the follow-up to Slave to the Scalpel will sound like, or is this just sort of like a one-off sort of experimental thing?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I'm sure that the next stuff we do will pretty much all have the same sound, but it'll just keep evolving. So yeah, I guess. I mean, we don't really think about all that when we write music. We just kind of do it, and if we like it, we put it out. So, but yeah, the next stuff will probably be a little bit more evolved. I'll say that.
Okay. Well, with the Pile of Festering Decomposition EP and the Slave to the Scalpel full-length album, it seems like this evolution is very natural, right? Or was this sort of like a preconceived vision on how you wanted your evolution to form?
Not really. Like I said, we kind of just write, and then the more different stuff we do, it kind of all that kind of comes as we are kind of in the studio. So we'll have a basis of a song, and then we'll kind of be like, okay, this is almost where we need to be, but then we kind of iron everything else out in the studio. So for example, my vocal change on Masters of Morbidity, that didn't happen until we were in the studio. That wasn't like a planned thing. Like, oh, I'm gonna sing differently on this song that I did on the last one. It just kind of happened. The guy Mark Lewis that we recorded the song with, it was kind of his idea, but it wasn't. I guess I started just doing the vocals like that in the studio, and he's like, yeah, you just got to keep it that way. It's fucking sick, and then it just happened. So all that stuff happens naturally, So I really don't even know what our next stuff is gonna sound like. I know we have a bunch of stuff written, but everything we have now demoed could change. So.
Well, as somebody who is, this is going to be my first time seeing 200 Stab Wounds tonight, and I couldn't be more excited to see you. But watching videos of you guys play live and everything, there's a real great essence of unity I've noticed in the band. Is it better with songwriting if everybody in the band is sort of like on the same page, or could being off in your own little worlds maybe actually help bring new ideas and sort of add contrast to the sound in a way?
Yeah, I mean, it's weird how we write music because I write music all the fucking time. So I always notice that if I'll always have just me by myself 30 demos of a song, right, or of songs, and 95% of them will be terrible, and then the other 5% will be really, really good. But then sometimes we'll have a song where it's just an idea, it's not complete or anything, and then I notice when everyone else puts their input in, that always turns out to be the best song. Itty Bitty Pieces off Slave to the Scalpel. I kind of had the whole middle section and end section wrote to that song, and then Ezra came in and wrote the lyrics and wrote the intro to it, and that ended up being one of our most popular songs. So I've noticed that when everyone has all their input in and we're all happy and we're all on the same page with the song, those are the best ones.
Being the lyricist, has there ever been a time where maybe a lyrical idea or a concept could help maybe foster or influence the composition of a song, or do you need music before lyrics do come into play?
Not really. It kind of just depends. Sometimes we'll have lyrics before, sometimes we'll have music before, or vice versa, or whatever. But it doesn't really it's not a planned thing. Okay, I'm gonna sit down and write lyrics. Just whenever stuff comes to me, or Lance, or Ezra, we just kind of lay it down. You know what I mean? Most of the time when we do write lyrics, there's already demos of certain songs. We have so many demos of just ideas, even though they may not be great, but it's just something that we have just to hear. Maybe we'll end up liking the week after that, or the year after that, or whatever. But yeah, we don't really write anything in particular for anything. We don't write lyrics for this track or music for these lyrics. It's just whatever fits, We always go through all the demos we have, listen to them, pick out the best songs, and then be okay, well, let's read these lyrics. What lyrics fit best with the way the song is?
Now, I know you're probably asked this in interviews, and I know it's a fairly silly question. I just want to know from a deep standpoint, but with the name 200 Stab Wounds, is there a significance within the number 200 in a way? Because I've always it rolls off the tongue so perfectly. 300 Stab Wounds doesn't sound right, 100 Stab Wounds doesn't sound right, but there's something about the number 200, the CKY song, 96 Bitter Beings. I wouldn't want another number in there. So I was just wondering if there's a significance within the number 200 in a way.
No, not really. You just kind of answer the question yourself. It just rolls off the tongue. It just sounds hard. 300 doesn't sound right. 100 doesn't sound right. So 200. Yeah.
I've always wondered because every time I think of a band with a number in it, I feel like there's just something. Maybe it's just being obsessed with like spirituality and like history and stuff like that. I always wondered if there was like a significance in that.
Yeah, no, not really. But people have like said online that we used to be called 117 stab wounds, and it's not true. We've always been 200 stab wounds, but yeah, there's no real significance to that number. It's just something that sounds good. Lance came up with the name, and when we put this band together, I remember him telling me this years ago, and then I was like, yo, we should use that because it's perfect. And then here we are.
Hell yeah. Well, I'm glad you cleared that up. That you were never under any circumstances. We got to make sure that that's up to date on Metal Archives.
Yeah, right.
Yep. In order to get inspired to write, whether it will be lyrics or riffs or any form of the song, do you kind of need to look for inspiration, or do you need to like put yourself in a specific state of mind, or does the inspiration just come out of nowhere for you?
It could be any one of those things. Really, like sometimes I write so much music, and I have so many ideas, like I said, that may be good or may not be very good. But I always make sure that I record every idea that I have, whether it's good or not. But as far as like inspiration goes, it most of the time it just comes to me. But I also smoke a lot of weed when I write, so that helps. But no, it just kind of happens. Like if I force myself to write something, like if I sit down and I'm like, okay, I got to write a song today, 9 times out of 10 it's going to be not the best thing, you know. But if you lay that idea down anyway, whatever you're trying to get down, and you come back to it like a week later when you're feeling more inspired, that always helps. So yeah, but it kind of just comes naturally. I don't really like look to any specific thing to inspire me or like feeling any sort of specific way. It's just more like when it hits me, it hits me.
Is isolation the better fuel for creativity, or being in the company of your bandmates is sort of the better way to cultivate ideas?
For me personally, isolation. Yeah, because I've noticed that like sometimes when we're like, if we're rehearsing or whatever, and then we're like, okay, well, we got to come up with something new. Sometimes we'll come up with cool shit, but then 9 times out of 10 we don't, because we're all just like, we're all such different writers. Like I have my own way of writing, Ezra has his own way, and Lance has his own way. So it's like, for me personally, it's isolation, because I can just sit down just by myself and like come up with ideas and then determine what I like and what I don't like.
With the aggressive nature of your music, because I just think it is the most brutally honest and in-your-face form of music. It really pulls no punches and is 100% uncompromising. Would you say, it's kind of like two questions in one, is there a similar aggression that applies to every 200 Stab Wounds song, or does every song have its own unique form of angst and anger and aggression that you like to demonstrate?
Yeah, I'd go with that one. I think every song has its own like identity almost. Like I don't think any of our songs follow kind of the same formula. I mean, I guess the only one formula that we really follow is like weird tempo changes, I guess. But that's not even really done on purpose. But yeah, I would go with every song pretty much has its own identity. Like with Masters, the one we just put out, that one sounds completely different than what the second song that we recorded in that bunch sounds like. It's two completely different songs. And I think it's the same thing for Slave to a Scalpel. Every song on that is like completely different, has its own unique thing about it, you know?
And does the songwriting process, because, you know, when it comes to releasing emotion, it's obviously very cathartic, but when you have to, you know, unleash all you got into it, could that also maybe make the songwriting process rather deteriorating in a way?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, like my personal formula, I guess I would say, to writing a song is just like it needs to go somewhere. Like it needs to almost feel like a roller coaster in a way. You know what I mean? And I feel like if you work yourself too hard, or if you try to intentionally beat what your last album was, I guess if that makes sense. Like if I'm sitting down with the mindset like, okay, I need to beat these last group of songs we had, I need to beat these songs, you're probably not going to do it. I mean, if you're open to like change, not change in a big way, but if you're open to like trying different things and doing all that, then it should just come naturally. But I mean, if you work yourself to the bone trying to beat your last album, maybe the best thing you should do is just try new things, because doing the same thing over and over again is not the best thing, but sticking to what you've created as a band is good. But if you're never open to new things, then I think that you could be burnt out pretty quick.
100%. Looking forward is always the best direction to look. It's good to look back and, like, you know, see how you progress, see what you wanted to do different, what you wanted to bring in, but forward has to be the direction you always look at.
I agree.
And going back to the lyrics, I wanted to ask, there was one thing I forgot to ask. Do you want your music to be open to interpretation, or do you want to engage the listener into the lyricism as much as the music itself? Because I could tell that you really do put your heart and soul into those lyrics as well.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess it's more open to interpretation. I mean, there's not really any specific, there's not really a message at all with our music, like our lyrics or anything like that. It's just mostly stories about random things. So it's not really a message. I guess it's just open to interpretation, whatever the listener thinks the song is about or what they want it to be about. That's what I like about our music. It's not about like pushing a certain message or whatever. It's just about having fun, and I guess whatever you take the song as, you can make it your own.
Have you ever, because I don't know why it's with you guys particular, and I never asked any band this question before, have you ever thought about going the concept album route? Because I just have a feeling that with your band name and with your intensity, I feel like there's so much that could be said within like a underlying story of your voice.
Yeah, no, we've never thought about it, but I mean, who knows in the future? Maybe.
Yeah, never say never. Yeah. And I have two more questions for you. When it comes to your live show, is there a similar energy that you channel into your live presence as you do when you're songwriting, or do you consider playing live and songwriting two completely separate forms of self-expression?
Yeah, they're separate for sure. I think songwriting is more what. When I write songs, I always think about. Well, actually, no. I guess you're right. When I write songs, I always think about the show. What would get the show really going? What would get the crowd really going? And also, what do I like? Because I don't really write songs based off of, okay, well, what would the people like? I have that in mind somewhat, but it comes down to what I would like. But I do think of what would get the show going, because that's what we do. That's what we do as a band. We play shows, we go on tour. So yeah, I mean, I guess they're kind of the same thing, but they're separate in a way. When we play live, it's completely different than when we're sitting down and actually writing a song. You know, like we just recently started playing Masters on this tour, and we didn't know what the reaction was going to be like, because we really didn't think about it too much. I mean, we knew it was going to be good, but when we play live, that's just really the time to just enjoy it and really kind of see what the people think about it. That's the best way to see how people really think about your music, is playing live in front of them.
100%. Do you almost like have to practice crowd interaction or stage presence in a way?
I've never practiced it, but I guess I have, but just being on tour. Like, I remember on our first tour, I was terrible. I couldn't talk to people. I was terrible at, like, the whole, like, bullshitting with the crowd. But after all the touring we've done, I've gotten way better at it. And the only thing I'm trying to work on now is not getting mad at bad crowds. We played a show. I'm not going to name the city, but we played a show one time, and there was people there, but it was just the weirdest crowd, and I had one too many beers, and I started talking shit. They took it well, though. They had fun with it, but I kind of felt bad. Like, the next morning, I'm like, damn, I'm an asshole. So that's the one thing I guess I could get better at, but no, I've never practiced it. I guess just being on tour and doing it night after night makes me more comfortable with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you're not going to have that problem in New York City. We bring it every time.
Yes, you do.
Yeah. And do you think that maybe the crowd interpretation or a reaction to it maybe adds another layer of context to the material, too?
Yeah, because, I mean, I read a comment on YouTube on this, like, old death metal documentary, and, like, when death metal was, like, first coming around and first becoming popular, and someone was saying that moshing is the metal crowd's form of a dance. Just like if you go to like a prom, they're slow dancing or whatever, you know. That's what these people do, and it's a form of expression. So that's what I said about playing the shows. That's a really good way to gauge how people really feel about your music. Like, sometimes we'll have crowds where you can tell they don't move too much because they actually want to sit there and they want to watch your band. But then you come to a place like every time we play Chicago, it gets fucking out of hand. Like, the crowd is out of hand. And that's just what they feel when they hear our music. So, yeah, I mean, I guess if you're trying to understand the whole metal thing, I mean, I guess you just have to come to a show just the same as a band. Like, you want to know what people think about your music, go play it live.
100%. Yeah. And the final question I wanted to ask you is the most difficult one. How do you know when you're finished with a song?
Fuck. I know inside, but I don't know how to answer that. So I guess you can just feel it. Like, for me personally, like, there's like songs I've written where I hear it and it's great, but I'm like, it's not done yet. It doesn't feel done. But there's times where, like, you know, you have the whole song, whatever, and then you hear that outro riff and you're like, that's it. It doesn't need anything else. Everything that you could have done with that song is already in there, so there's no point to even keep going, because then you're just going to be trying too hard, and then it's going to bore the people. So, I don't know. I can't really even explain it. You just know.
That was a good effort, though. I appreciate the not you're never finished with the song. And so before we go, I want to, A, thank you so much for your time today. B, congrats on all the success you've been having. You guys most certainly deserve it. Is there just anything else with 200 Sablons you'd like to promote that you're allowed to talk about? Masters of Morbidity is out. We could be expecting some new music soon. Is there just anything else you'd like to plug or shout-outs you'd like to give to your homies in the Ohio metal scene to sing with Sugabog and all those guys?
Yeah, shout out Bog, shout out Mutilation Barbecue, shout out Inoculation, shout out all the homies from Ohio. And yeah, we just signed with Metal Blade Records, put out a new single, Masters of Morbidity. Check that out. And we have a new music video coming out in, I think, January. And we're working on a full length right now. We're going to have that out by next year. So,
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Thank you so much, everybody. 200 Saboons. Check out their new single, Masters of Morbidity. This is Alex from Heavy New York. We will see you next time.